Canada is the second largest country in the world, but as you can see, they're building more and more dense housing all over Canada. When you walk through these neighborhoods, and you can actually see on the drone footage that I took just the extent of how dense they are building these new places. They're building houses that are really close together, but most people don't understand why this is actually happening and how this actually shows the bubble in its entirety, because it's more of a land bubble than it actually is a real estate bubble. Because to get a real estate bubble, you really have to have the value of land that has skyrocketed beyond what it should be worth. People don't realize that there's only a few companies, there's only a few people who actually own most of the land in this country. So what's really interesting about that is, because if people are holding on to the land anticipating that the value is just going to go up, then it forces developers to build more and more dense housing. You see, you might blame the developers and say it's all their fault, they're wanting to make as much money as possible. Obviously, the margins as a new home builder in Canada are actually not as large as most people would think. And you can see here, these are the backyards of these houses, and they're probably running about, I don't know, 8 to 12 feet deep. So they're not very big backyards at all. And then you've got these townhomes that are all adjoined, and then you've got a gap every so often. There's single family homes that are being built here, probably going for $700,000 or $800,000. So obviously when you have a few players that own all the land, then that means that you've got a monopoly on land. And that means all these people can just hold on to land until it's finally ready that that land can be built on. And you saw this with what happened with the green belt in Ontario. You know, even ministers in government who knew about it were purchasing land, and there was so much speculation that was going on over the development of the green belt in Ontario, which eventually didn't happen because the amount of people that were disgusted. If the land price is massively inflated, then what that essentially means is the house price is also going to be inflated when you buy it. Anybody that's bought new construction in Canada will see that, because they actually separate the lot cost and the actual home cost to build. And homes have gone up in price. The amount it costs to build a home is higher than it used to be. But when you really look at the situation that we're in, it's more to do with the land. The land is very expensive. And you know, that's what a lot of people don't even realize, is they're actually putting most of their money into the land. And that's how things get even easier to see, and they become even more transparent. Because if you're talking about the concept of land being expensive in Canada, it doesn't make any sense, because there's no shortage of land. So politicians like to talk about housing all the time, how we're not building enough homes. But really, I think bringing it back to land just makes it more basic for people to understand and grasp the extent of the problem here. Because if you look at what's going on, there's land all over the place, and just north of here, all the farms are practically for sale. Everybody wants to get rid of them. So why on earth are homes so overpriced? Once again, it comes back to the land. Obviously, if they're listing their farm for sale for $30 million instead of $2 million, then that means that the lots that are being built on are going to be very expensive. Now, here in Alberta as well, there's the construction of the houses themselves, because if you look at these homes, they are built like absolute garbage. They're built using this vinyl, which is very flimsy. Considering the hail, considering the really cold winters, they are just built really super cheap. They don't brick them like they do out in Ontario. Much of the brick production plants have closed down. A lot of the old buildings used to be brick in Calgary, but all the brick production has stopped now. All the land around here is being developed. Like, this is huge. This project in Carrington is absolutely massive. It's a master plan community. It's one of these 15-minute cities where they're not building enough parking. You can probably see that from the drone video that I took, that there's very limited parking and there's cars parked absolutely everywhere. So I've just walked to the end here. You can see they're developing all out that way, and then all the way north they are developing. And all these farms that you can see in the distance are for sale. So in probably 3-4 years, if the bubble continues, then they'll buy those farms. Those will be developed as well. So the actual asset that you're buying is the land. So if that is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and you own less land, or you own an apartment where you own no land whatsoever, apartments are just essentially a scam. Condos are a scam, because you're going to end up paying the same amount of money as if you bought a townhouse or if you bought a single family home. Obviously, most people just buy it because they can't afford to qualify for the mortgage for the single family home, but they end up paying the same amount. And also the condo fees are coupled to inflation, just like your home maintenance. But it's just absolutely crazy. When you look at how dense they are building things, you can really see straight through this bubble, which is the fact that it's based on a land bubble. There is no shortage of supply of land, and that completely blows apart all these narratives that the politicians are always spewing, that yes, we need to build more homes because we're building the lowest amount of homes in the G7. And the other thing that you've got to think about, guys, when it comes to building here in Canada is the fact that yes, we could be building the lowest amount of homes per person or per 1,000 people in the G7, but the fact is that doesn't take into account the millions of basement suites that have popped up since the last census, and it also doesn't take into account how the majority of the immigrants that are coming into the country are living in multi-generational households. So the average household size is increasing here in Canada. The density of the housing, the amount of land you get, is also decreasing. So basically you're just seeing more and more people living in smaller and smaller places, and it doesn't make sense. You know, what people think of the Canadian dream is they think of a single family home on a nice lot. Whether you or I think that is a bad investment is a different story. But my buddy Travis, when we were in Texas... All right, so we are in this tiny home community right now, and they've got all these tiny homes, and basically it's kind of crazy because these things are 160,000, right, Travis? And we were looking at these tiny home communities. I was saying to him, buddy, you have no idea. These aren't even tiny homes, because some of the lots that they were building on out in Texas were actually much larger, and he was calling them tiny homes. And you constantly see these laned homes that are being built, and essentially these laned homes are built on absolutely tiny lots. And if you have a garage, which you need because the weather here is terrible when it comes to the winters, then guess what? You've literally got a backyard of 2 feet and then your garage. So you have no space whatsoever. The amount of land that you get is a tiny amount. And like I said, the actual investment is the land in itself. But when I looked at the stats of the amount of renters in these new communities, it's sometimes over 60%, which is absolutely insane. So it shows you who's buying, guys. The people who are buying to speculate, because if you're purchasing a home like this, you're going to be losing money on it despite the rising rents in Calgary. You know, the amount of mortgage costs, the amount of maintenance is going up. You're going to be losing money for sure. Why would you do that? Why would you buy a house and lose money on it? You'd only do it to speculate, essentially, and you do it to speculate because you're looking at that future home price appreciation. Obviously, I think the reality is, do you really want to hold Canadian assets? Do you want to hold Canadian dollar denominated assets? It's certainly something that I wouldn't want to hold, because I just believe the currency is going to take a lot of the beating, and it already has took a lot of the beating of the fact the economy is completely broken here. And until that changes, and it will take a long time to change, and you basically see the economy becoming more diversified away from housing, which will happen slowly as this bubble implodes. And I don't know if you can see that, guys, but over there's actually 2 rentals there. There's one next door to another, and that pretty much sums up the new home market in Calgary. It's just pure speculation. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are getting duped into the market who think, yes, this is a rock solid market. They get fooled by the amount of speculation, which distorts the market, making it look like it's a really hot market. And then you add in the flavor of a narrative, which that narrative in Calgary is obviously so many people are moving to Calgary, and this is just going to go on forever, and we've never ever never seen this happen before in Calgary, and you're not going to have an exodus of people leaving. The thing is, the economy hasn't got any better. The current premier is as bad as the last one, and things aren't getting better here. The economy is in fact getting worse. The amount of government stimulus money that was absorbed in Alberta has meant that it's one of the most distorted economies in Canada, and Calgary itself has one of the highest unemployment rates in Canada as well. So that just goes to show what is really going on. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out that video there. And if you're looking for a VPN to protect your privacy, go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. That's the VPN that I use and the affiliate link for the channel. Anyway, guys, I will see you in the next one. Take care.